Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening, and it's going to be an interesting one with Donald J. Trump. Oh my goodness. So there's a story on, I hope my microphone is not too loud. Tell me if it's too loud, please do. I had to adjust the audio back and forth today, so hopefully it's not too bad. And I'll try not to shout. So we'll talk a bit about Donald Trump, of course, talk about an alien story. Aliens are supposed to be existing, and Trump wants to release information about aliens, of course, to distract from the Epstein files. We have a few stories on Reform UK. The UK is not going along with Trump when it comes to Iran, it seems, and a few other stories as well. So sounds fine, Max. Cool. Thanks a lot, Viper. So let's start off with this, of course, the big one of today. So Donald Trump is in a bit of bother over his tariffs. Now, remember, Donald Trump decided, I'm going to impose all these tariffs on other countries to drive them to the negotiating table so that they do better deals with the United States, or it's to bring manufacturing back to the US. Now, Trump decided to ignore Congress and impose these tariffs. And remember, tariffs are paid by the importer. So while a tariff may be placed on goods from China, it's whoever's importing the goods from China ends up paying the tariff. And many businesses have been struggling as a result of that. Some businesses have closed. Some businesses have stopped importing goods. Others have added the extra cost onto the final good that goes to the consumer, and the consumer is paying more. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled not in Donald Trump's favor, and they have said that the president cannot impose these tariffs, and Trump exploded in response. Now, I want to show you this bit from Sky News, and then we'll move on to some other stories which are quite interesting.
Most significant judgment on one of Donald Trump's most significant policies. What he did was to impose these tariffs. He called it the most beautiful word in the English language. Hugely controversial on legal grounds, clearly, and it was challenged through the courts, and it's ended up in a Supreme Court where he has a Conservative majority, and this has long been seen as a test of his presidential power. He imposed tariffs on countries across the board. There were a number of reasons for these tariffs, but essentially countries, trading partners of the US, they face at least a 10% tariff paid by the importer of goods. This was Donald Trump's big plan to reduce inflation, to deliver on his cost of living promises to the American people. But
before we get to the but, it's insane to imagine that, what we're going to do is we're going to bring down the cost of living by imposing a tax on imports. Now, of course, Trump was trying to sell it to his fans, and some people bought into it, this idea that China, the European Union, Canada, Mexico, all these other countries, they would pay the tariff to the US government. And then the US government would have all this extra cash that they would be able to spend on public services or whatever. And they would be able to cut taxes because they could rely on the money that was coming in from these tariffs, which was, of course, a pile of crap. Which begs the question, did Donald Trump not understand how tariffs work, or was he pretending? Or maybe even a bit of both, if that's possible.
What he did was to use this Emergency Powers Act, essentially declaring an emergency on trade deficit. Unilaterally, he said this was going to happen. And his opponent said, well, hang on a minute. Actually, what you're doing is raising taxes, and that is a job for Congress. The Supreme Court has agreed with that argument on the face of it. And it's a huge blow to Donald Trump, not just in terms of the nuts and bolts of that economic policy, but also to his stature as president, because so much was riding on that. And it does bring into question other areas where he has enacted executive power, which is also contested.
This is also another interesting thing that's not coming up really much in these news stories about these tariffs, is there are other areas. So if Donald Trump has fallen when it comes to the tariffs, what other areas where he has bypassed Congress, ignored the Constitution, and decided, I'm going to go go ahead on my own. So there's a real risk there that he could have these powers taken away from him, or he will not be able to implement them. Now, when it comes to these tariffs, I'm not an expert on this, but the impression I get is that, so the tariff is imposed by the customs officers, so the Department of Customs and Excise, or whatever it's called in the US. And what they do is they impose the tariff. So when a business wants to import a good from, for example, China or Europe, they have to pay the tax, the import tax, the tariff, and then the good is released. But that can only be enforced if it's according to the law. But now the law says that, no, you can't do that. So anyone who is being asked to pay a tariff or pay this tax can point to the the ruling by the Supreme Court and say, I'm not paying that. Now release my good. Release the goods that I'm importing from China or from the European Union. Now, some tariffs, of course, remain in place, but these new ones that Trump was imposing, they will have to go. There will be no legal basis for the US government to continue to collect these tariffs, because they would be challenged in any court, and any court will just look at the Supreme Court ruling and say, yeah, I rule on the side of the business who's taken the US government to court.
Donald Trump, before this judgment was made, he was saying it was going to be the Supreme Court's most important judgment ever. He said the US...
Which is so insane. Obviously, it's clear for most people to see that Donald Trump didn't have a legal leg to stand on. So it means that he's surrounding himself with so-called legal experts who are probably saying, yes, Mr. President, you will win this case. Yes, Mr. President, you're completely correct. When he was completely wrong.
Would be screwed if the court ruled against the legality, said the US might have to refund trillions to companies and different countries, creating, as he called it, a complete mess. And that's the question now. How big a mess is this, and how much will the United States have to pay out to companies who have had to pay as a result of these tariffs?
And it'd be interesting to know if some of these businesses that were struggling or went to the wall as a result of these tariffs, they will have, I don't know whether they will have compensation. You know, people who ran small businesses who overnight saw their businesses close because they couldn't pay the tariff. And I covered this on the channel before. Do you remember some of the stories? There was a woman who had commissioned a Chinese company to produce toys for children, or some sort of, to commission something anyway. I don't remember the exact object. And then it was she wanted to import it, but she couldn't pay the tariff because it was about $250,000. And she said, I can't afford that. So her business closed. If it was deemed illegal for the president to impose these tariffs, then surely she would have some sort of compensation.
Deemed illegal. As of late last year, there was something like $100 billion that had been pulled in on tariffs. That's the question. How much of that has to be paid back to the people who channeled those payments to the United States Treasury?
This is really, really bad for Trump because, and I hope the Democrats latch on to this and say, look, people are paying more because of Donald Trump's mistake, Donald Trump's arrogance. Ordinary people are struggling because of these ridiculous tariffs, which have been deemed unlawful. Now, I want to show you this clip here, which is really interesting. So CNN are reporting here on the reaction from Trump. Let me bring up the screen a little bit bigger. The reaction from Trump when he heard the news. And this is really interesting.
About this. Yeah, Pamela, we still have no official reaction from the White House or President Trump. We are waiting. I am told that they are meeting, discussing how they are going to respond. But we have learned more about what happened in the room when President Trump was with those governors and he learned of the Supreme Court decision. Apparently, the breakfast had been going well. They were working together. And then President Trump became enraged. He started ranting about the decision, not only calling it a disgrace, but started attacking the courts, at one point saying, these effing courts, but using
these effing courts. Oh my goodness, he's completely unhinged.
Being courts, but using the actual language there. We know that President Trump does use expletives on quite often when he is enraged in particular. Now, this, of course, comes as this tariff policy. This could not be a bigger decision for President Trump. This could be.
Sounds like a scene out of Downfall in the Fuhrer bunker. Exactly. Yes, very much so. I'm not saying this is the end of Trump, but you know, who the hell was advising him?
Not be a bigger loss for President Trump. Not only is so much of his economic agenda based on these tariffs, so much of his foreign policy is based on these tariffs. He has used these tariffs as leverage in almost every meeting that he has had around the world. He has touted them as the most important part of the economic agenda. So clearly a huge loss, and he recognizes that today. Pamela?
All right, Kristen Holm. About this.
So here is Trump responding to telling the media what he thinks about all of this.
And I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
So it's the court's fault. Blaming the court. Always blaming someone else. What is it with conservatives? It's always somebody else's fault.
I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can.
Okay. So the Europeans, the Chinese, the Canadians are all dancing in the street over Donald Trump's, the removal of Donald Trump's right to impose the tariffs. I don't know if they're dancing in the streets, maybe a sigh of relief. But the threat, of course, is, well, they won't be dancing or laughing for much longer. Why? Because you're going to impose these tariffs anyway. See, the problem with Trump trying to impose these tariffs is his administration would have to impose them. And people, down at the docks trying to claim these tariffs, trying to impose them on businesses will say, I'm not paying the tariff. There's no legal basis for me to pay the tariff because the Supreme Court has said that the president can't do this. You can't impose this tariff on me. Release the good. I'm not paying the tariff. It's not just Trump says something and it becomes legal. The Supreme Court has said, no, he can't do this. The Supreme Court is there to hold the president to account. So if the Supreme Court said, you can't do this, then they can't do it. There's no legal basis. Trump would have to go back to the Supreme Court and put his case to them, and they would have to rule on that. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So Trump's up a creek without a paddle.
For long, that I can assure you. The Democrats on the court are thrilled.
The Democrats on the court is nothing to do with the Democrats. It's to do with the rule of law. And once again, he was either given bad advice or he just didn't care.
But they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices.
This is quite serious. Like you're trying to undermine the rule of, what you say is, look, I disagree with the ruling, but we must respect the ruling. He's not talking like somebody who's going to respect the ruling. Your job is to respect the ruling of the Supreme Court. You don't have to like the ruling, but as an elected official, you're supposed to respect the ruling. And it seems like Donald Trump doesn't want to respect the ruling.
An automatic no, no matter how good a case you have, it's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people.
Their loyalty is to the Constitution, not to you. That's the problem for Donald Trump. He wants judges to be loyal to him, not to the Constitution.
People. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often. with certain members of this court.
He's just throwing everything against the wall, hoping something will stick. These people are a disgrace. No, that's not working. These people are traitors. That's not working. They're not putting the country first. That's not working. Just keep throwing stuff against the wall. They're Democrats. They will always vote no. They don't actually look at the policy. It's pathetic. It's like the child who lost the game and he's complaining about the rules. It's the rules that were the problem, not me not being able to stick to the rules.
And it's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular. When in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats, and not that this should have anything at all to do with it. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. It's my opinion that
it's the opposite. They're upholding the Constitution. Because if Trump thinks that they're undermining the Constitution, then he can point out exactly where they are doing that.
Court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller.
So this is this is amazing. So now it's somebody else is influencing the Supreme Court. Foreign influences. Who are these foreign influences? This is at a time when the Trump administration is trying to pump money into far-right parties in Europe. There's foreign influence for you. He's desperate. Call them unpatriotic. Call them Farage as well. Call them a disgrace. And now he's saying, oh, there's foreign influence. So he's going to probably look around for some justice who, I don't know, has a foreign nanny or something like that, and say, see, here we found the smoking gun.
More than people would ever think. It's a small movement. I won by millions of votes. We won in a landslide. With all the cheating that went on, there was a lot of it, but we still won in a landslide. Too big to rig. But these people are obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. They're very loud. And I think certain justices are afraid of that. They don't want to do the right thing. They're afraid of it. This was an important case to me, more as a symbol of economic national security. And also, I would say, just for our country itself, so important. Because we're doing so well as a country. We've never done.
People are worse off because of you. You're not doing well. The United States is not doing well because of Donald Trump. David McGuinness, thank you so much for that super chat. This is happening in the UK with the government appealing multiple court rulings. The government should not be appealing these cases. Generally, the government loses, but it's wasting public money by appealing these. It knows that it's on the wrong side. Especially with the case that you're likely referring to when it comes to Palestine Action. The UK government lost that case. So it should just keep its head down and be quiet about it, as opposed to attempt to waste public money on an appeal, which it's likely to lose. Because if it had a solid case, it would have won the first time, because it would have presented the evidence that it had to deem Palestine Action a terrorist organization, a proscribed organization. So, I don't see any appeal would just be a waste of money. He isn't sweating. Are you talking about former Prince Andrew? Nice to see him panic in public. Yes, he's really upset about this, because he had hope. This is not just about the tariffs. This is about him being undermined. He wants to be like Erdogan. He wants to be like Putin. He wants to be like Kim Jong-un. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to have supreme control over everything. And he's starting to see that whatever control he had start to slip away. The Supreme Court is saying, no, you can't do X, Y, and Z. So I think we're starting to see the Trump administration fall apart. Trump has peaked. His power has peaked. And I think it's just downhill from here. Because if the Supreme Court is standing up to him and he's not able to impose his tariffs, there will be other areas where people say, hey, wait a minute, Trump shouldn't be allowed to do this. Let's take this to the Supreme Court and test it out. And, perhaps before this, people thought Trump has stacked the court in his favor, so there's nothing we can do about it. But now they see, actually, there is a weakness here. He's not immune. And I'm not saying every case will win against Trump, but it shows that he's extremely weak.
So the good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also as recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States. And in actuality, I was very modest in my ask of other countries and businesses because I wanted to do, and it's very important, I wanted to be very well behaved because I wanted to do anything, I didn't want to do anything that would affect the decision of the court.
Okay, so what the hell does that mean? Is that some sort of cope? Oh my goodness. Is he still talking? Yes, I've stopped now. Okay. Penguins 1, Trump 0. But this is good. This is good news, at least for now. It means that Trump's power is limited. He doesn't have supreme control over everything. And I think he's starting to realize that too. The reaction according to the media, when he heard the news, to completely explode, to have a meltdown, means that he realizes he's not in control. And now we're going to start to see him fall apart because he understands that he doesn't have control over it. And these types of leaders, these dictators, as soon as they start to lose a little bit of control, it's the beginning of the end. And Trump now realizes he's on borrowed time. The midterms are going to really hamstring him and of course what's happening in Iran is a distraction. Greenland was a distraction, so he's going to try and engage in lots of distractions. And this war in Iran, which I have a feeling is going to happen, if not this weekend, the following one, is going to be an attempt to distract the public from a disaster at home. And this does not work. This will not work for him. Because as I keep saying, ordinary people don't feel better off. There were jobs figures that came out recently which were terrible. 1 million jobs lost in respect to last year. How is he supposed to sell that as a win to the public? So it's not looking good for Trump. Finally, we can say that. And I think we're going to soon see some of his allies turn on him. And may it happen sooner rather than later. So guys, a different story completely. I wanted to cover this. This is insane. Okay. Trump directs U.S. government to release files on aliens and UFOs. So U.S. President Donald Trump says he will direct U.S. agencies, including the Defense Department, to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files on aliens and extraterrestrial life. Trump said the declaration in a post on Truth Social after he accused Barack Obama earlier in the day of revealing classified information when the former president said aliens are real on a podcast last week. Now, when Obama said aliens are real, he added the caveat, they're not at Area 51. There's nothing at Area 51. And I mentioned before, look, if Area 51 had aliens there, Trump would be the first person to go there and have, get a selfie with the aliens. He would be like, I'm the one who discovered the aliens. I'm the one who released all this. So I'm not really, look, when it comes to the alien, and I don't know, I haven't seen any of these files or anything like that, the Drake equation, exactly, or the Fermi paradox comes to mind as well. Where are all the aliens? We've never seen any of them. So I think what we're going to probably see is some grainy footage. I think we're going to see some weird stuff in the sky, weird lights, things like that, and that'll be probably it. I'm really not expecting anything dramatic. I don't think we're actually going to see any aliens. I think we may see some unidentified flying objects, maybe lots of pictures, lots of videos, maybe reports, things like that, emails, letters, stuff like that. Rubberman, what the hell is that? From the 1950s. So I'm not expecting to see any actual aliens or any alien technology. I think we're just going to see the sort of stuff we've seen before, maybe just more of it. I don't know, guys. What do you think in the chat? Do you think we're actually going to see pictures of real aliens, or videos of people interacting with these aliens, trying to communicate with them or something? Probably shit drawings. UFO was meant to be turned into a film, but it never happened. Bigfoot and the Vagons. A Trump selfie with aliens. They'd be embarrassed at being a fellow carbon-based forum. If it helps to distract the Trump administration, will publish something. Yes. God damn it, stop talking about Epstein. Give them some aliens to distract them. UFO Series 2 was Space 1999. Quatermass. I remember that show. Unidentified flying orange person. That's him on Air Force One. Look, aliens, stop talking about the files. That's basically it. Honestly, I honestly don't know what we're going to see, but I'm not expecting a lot. When I was a teenager or a kid, I would have been like, "Wow, they found aliens! This is going to be so amazing. We're going to see amazing stuff." But now I'm a bit more cynical. So, on the Epstein files, of course, we have this story about the former Prince Andrew. Government considers removing Andrew from royal line of succession. Now, this is interesting. So, as we know, Andrew has lost his titles. He's now been arrested. And, it seems that the government are going to go the extra step. So the government is considering introducing legislation to remove Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from the line of royal succession. The BBC understands the move, which would prevent Mountbatten Windsor from ever becoming king, would come after the police investigation has concluded. Look, I don't think he was ever going to become king. I think the next in line, from a logical point of view, would be William. The king's brother remains 8th in line to the throne, despite being stripped of his titles, including Prince last October, amid pressure over his titles his ties to paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. On Thursday evening, Mountbatten Windsor was released under investigation 11 hours after his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He has consistently and strenuously denied any wrongdoing. On Friday, unmarked police cars and vans were seen coming and going at Royal Lodge, the 30-room Windsor property where Andrew lived for many years. 30-room. You never hear people complain, like, why isn't he put in a one-bedroom flat, in a bed sit? Like, what else does he need? Does he need a 30-bedroom Windsor palace or semi-palace? Needs a bucket. Honestly, he's on his own now, no? Does that affect his entire line? I would imagine it would. But I don't think anyone... I think his line would end there. I think this should put pressure on the royals. I think this is not going to bring down the monarchy, okay? Let's not be glib about it. But... it's or too enthusiastic, I should say. But I think this is certainly damaging the royal family. This is probably the most damaging thing since Diana, I think. The royal family really have to answer questions, because it seems Andrew brought Jeffrey Epstein to Buckingham Palace, according to the emails. And if that's the case, then people were there and people understand, people know about the relationship, if he was invited, and this is an if, I'm not suggesting this happened, but if he did attend on one occasion, it's possible there were a number of occasions, and then there are people in Buckingham Palace who know something about this, and these people should come forward and present and answer questions, including the King and Queen. If your brother was engaging in these things, surely you'd know something about it if it was taking place at your house. I know Buckingham Palace is not a normal house, but still, surely there is some record of comings and goings of individuals for security reasons. Oh, I'd have a mansion at 1 room per teddy. This idea must come from the king, not the government. Yeah, I think it's the king. The king has to sign off on this. I don't think this will be happening. I think there's a negotiation taking place between the government and the king at the moment. And the king probably king is thinking, I need to cover my arse. I need to protect myself and my family. And and Andrew needs to go into the wood chipper where he deserves to be. Because I think there are bigger things that I need to protect. This is the thinking of King Charles. Charles says, hey, we can't allow this to bring down the royal family, so you need to go under the bus. Now, Buckingham Palace has 750 rooms. There's a chance you may not know what's going on. No, well, okay. But for security reasons, surely they would know who was coming in and who was going out when they were coming. Like, it's not a place that's open to the public. So Mummy's spoiled little brat Andrew. She gave him £12 million to make the problem go away. Anyway, guys, let's move on to another story. Reform UK. My goodness. Okay. No, I'll start with this one because I think it's a bit more closer to... So as we know, there is a by-election taking place next week in Gorton and Denton. And the candidate... Let me close this down. The candidate who's running for Reform UK is none other than Matt Goodwin. Now, according to The Guardian today, it says... Reform UK's Matt Goodwin faces GB News complaint over colleagues' claim of inappropriate comments. What's this about? So Matt Goodwin, Reform UK's candidate in the Gorton and Denton by-election, was accused by a young woman working at GB News of making inappropriate comments when she was, which she viewed as sexually harassing. The Guardian can reveal. The junior staffer complained to HR last year, alleging Goodwin had made inappropriate comments, one regarding her appearance, sources say. Goodwin, 44, volunteered an apology after the complaint had been raised. The woman is understood to have complained to the network's HR department in 2025. She later left the network for unrelated reasons. Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, is understood to have been told by a senior member of staff at GB News about the complaint prior to Goodwin's selection as a party candidate for next week's by-election. So it seems that Nigel Farage knew about this, but said, well, the vetting process says yes, okay. It doesn't matter if you're a bit dodgy, welcome aboard. You know, if look at it from Nigel Farage's point of view. If Nigel Farage was to keep dodgy people out, there'd be nobody left in Reform UK. They wouldn't have anyone in a party. It'd be a party of zero, including Nigel Farage himself. A number of sources told The Guardian they were aware of the woman's complaint against Goodwin and that GB News had undertaken an inquiry into the complaint. I'm really surprised that GB News would do something like this. One source at the broadcaster said she was very upset at the time and her colleagues were upset on her behalf, that she was distressed by the situation. Look, I think it's important to remember that not everyone who works at GB News is a supporter of Nigel Farage and Reform UK. It's the owners are, but the people working, like the people working the cameras or making the tea, are not necessarily, far right bigots. Okay, they're just ordinary people. They're not involved in politics. They're just people doing a job. In the same way as, if you work for Palantir, it doesn't mean that you're a megalomaniac. Freckle Bunny, thanks so much for that super chat. Matt Goodwin, soon to be Pratt Badlows, hopefully. Badlows, sorry, not Matt. How did I misread that? Badlows, yes. I really hope that he does lose this by-election. It's looking likely that the Greens are leading in the polls. Well, there seems to be only one poll at the moment, so I think we're going to see more polls as we get closer to the by-election. But it seems that the Greens are leading, Reform are second, and the Labour Party are in third. Now, some Labour supporters are saying, no, Labour will win this seat, so the Greens should step aside. But one poll, I'm not saying one poll is sufficient, but one poll is saying the opposite. I have a feeling that Labour maybe understand that they cannot win this, and I hope what they're doing is they're putting on a brave face, but behind the scenes they're encouraging their voters to back the Green candidate. But I think the problem here is that if the Greens win it, this would be worse for Labour than if Reform win it. Because if Reform win this seat in Gorton and Denton, it will be, we need to be more far right. We need to be more right wing. We need to double down on immigration. So Blue Labour will see this as a justification. See, we lost because we didn't out Farage. We need to move further to the right, be tougher on immigration, and then we're going to be able to defeat Nigel Farage and Reform. But if the Greens win it, then those on the left of the party will say, see, we should have moved to the left. Chasing Nigel Farage is not working. We need to try something else. Goodwin has denied acting inappropriately. A lawyer acting for him confirmed to The Guardian that a grievance had been raised. They said it related to two alleged verbal remarks made months apart, and that no formal disciplinary action had been taken. But if he didn't do anything wrong, then why did he apologize? They said that it was a minor workplace matter that had been resolved as a difference in perception or miscommunication. Miscommunication? Like, what did he say? It'd be nice to know what he said, and then we can come to our own conclusion as to whether it was a miscommunication or not. They're like, "Whoa!" And then, and then people were like, "Hey, you shouldn't have said that." Oh, I was complimenting her. Is that what he was trying to do? Farage is understood to have decided the complaint was not serious enough to warrant a rethink about Goodwin's selection. It's like, why am I not surprised? You know, if it had been some nobody, Farage would have went, get rid of them. It's not worth it. Matt Goodwin is a very high profile figure, and this is going to be embarrassing for Matt Goodwin if he loses. I think Matt Goodwin has a lot to lose from this, because he will no doubt go back to GB News or whatever, but then we can start calling him a loser after that. You know, he lost to the Green candidate or whatever. But I think if he wins, it's not going to be good for the constituency, not because I disagree with his politics, but because he's not going to do anything there. He'd be just like Nigel Farage in Clacton. So this is interesting. Okay. But another interesting story about Reform. And it begs the question, what sort of people does Reform attract? So from the Jewish News, it says, Reform UK suspends by-election campaign activist over anti-Semitic and misogynistic posts. Once again, why are anti-Semites and misogynists attracted to Reform UK? It's a real head scratcher. Why would these people be attracted? Is it by accident? You know, they join Reform UK by accident. They support Nigel Farage by accident. It's like, oh crap, I didn't know I was supporting Reform UK. You know, I'm an anti-Semite. I'm a bigot. I'm a misogynist. I'm a sexist. I'm a racist. But I happen to support Reform UK by accident. I didn't know that they didn't think this way, or did. Reform UK has suspended an activist assisting with GB News presenter Matt Goodwin's by-election campaign after communal leaders raised concerns about anti-Semitic and misogynistic social media posts, Jewish News understands. Adam Mutla, Reform UK's interim campaign manager in Thameside, has been identified as a key figure in Goodwin's campaign for the Gorton and Denton by-election seat, and was photographed alongside the GB News presenter. And there he is, smiling away with Matt. The Manchester news outlet The Mill has revealed Mutna, a Polish-born entrepreneur, participated in an online discussion in July 2024 about Holocaust death tolls, and where he asserted that 6 million Poles, including some Jews, had been murdered. Some Jews, okay. He responded to a post by former UFC fighter Jake Shields, who has a history of anti-Semitic statements which claimed the Holocaust death toll was made up. Mutla added, they always use polls to make up the number. And on top of it, they claim Poles were killing. Just sick. Another post from the same month, Mutla wrote that he would never touch a Jewish woman. What does he mean by that? He was also allegedly used a racial slur and claimed that 60-70% of transgender people are pedophiles in another post. Well, so it's a wonderful individual. Why is he attracted to Reform UK? You know, if this was somebody who was in the Labour Party, I would imagine the Labour Party would say, we don't want anyone like you. This guy was suspended. Is he suspended because was he suspended because of these comments, or because the comments were discovered? Okay, you know, once again, is it what he said that is bad, or that he was found out what he said? I'll leave that up to you guys. Let me see if this works. I posted. Let's see if this link works. Hope it does. Yes, it does. Oh my goodness. This is what Nigel Farage would like in the UK. So for people who are considering voting for Reform UK in Gorton and Denton, I don't think there are too many Reform UK supporters on the stream. But this is what Reform UK would like to see. Couple left with $200,000 bill after baby born in the US. So a couple were told they faced a $200,000, £146,500 medical bill when their baby was born prematurely in the US, despite having travel insurance which covered her pregnancy. Musicians Issy Farris from Cornwall and Archie Sylvester from Somerset, who perform as a folk duo Farris and Sylvester, were on tour in Nashville when Issy became unwell from pre-eclampsia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Their baby was born in an American hospital several weeks early, but the couple said Zurich Insurance Group refused to uphold the policy and cover their costs because the baby was not named in the document. How can the... Jesus Christ. How can you name the baby in the document if the baby didn't exist yet? Okay. Maybe I'm missing something here. The baby was part of the mother. Yeah, the mother was covered by the insurance. Surely the mother and the baby would be covered. It's like, yeah, we're going to cover you, but we're not going to cover your baby. Well, you haven't named it yet. This is insane. This is what Nigel Farage would like to have in the UK. Remember this. After a 9-month legal battle, Zurich has reversed its decision and told the BBC it was sorry for the stress caused. I imagine a significant amount of stress occurred. Ferris and Sylvester, who live in From and had been there on a summer tour with their band that included a 4-day stint in Nashville. Ferris, who was 33 weeks pregnant with their first child, had been given the all clear for the trip and flight by her midwife and GP. I was 25. I'd never been ill in my life. It was a big opportunity. Ferris explained, the advice was, you're perfectly healthy, so there should not really be a reason not to do it. Sylvester said the couple made 100% sure Issy was insured to be pregnant, and the complications involving pregnancy whilst were abroad were covered. And I imagine that's what they would do. A normal person would do that. Okay, you're pregnant, we're flying. I want to make sure everything is above board, make sure to cover any potential costs, because, you know, pregnant women, if they have to go into hospital for anything, even if it's not related to pregnancy, you know, there are risks there and there are complications that can come out of the pregnancy. So you want to make sure that everything is covered. But it seems that I presume that they were covered. So it took 9 months of correspondence and the help from the lawyer before the insurer reversed its decision and said that they would cover the family's medical bills and US expenses. It was such a relief, said Sylvester, but it didn't mean that it didn't happen. It seems irresponsible that we were pushed so hard on something that seemed so black and white for us. And this is why it's so important that if you're traveling to the US, that you have insurance. You have as much insurance as possible, because these things happen, and unless you're rich, you're going to be in serious trouble. And Americans who are watching this are probably going, well, surely this is normal. This happens all the time. I was destined to be here on this stream. Great to see you, Suzanne. This is what women endure every day in the US, with some dying after birthing. This is terrible. The US has the most powerful military in the world, but it can't provide free healthcare for its citizens. How is that possible? You'd have to be a fool to travel to somewhere like the US today. Yeah, I've traveled to the US before. I never had any problems. I hope to travel in the future when the Trump regime is no longer in place. It's atrocious, Max. There are people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, who are sounding the alarm, who are trying to turn the ship around, trying to improve the situation, especially when it comes to health insurance, health support for people in the US. So there are heroes there, but it's an uphill battle, and they have very powerful forces working against them, people with significant amounts of cash, who are willing to corrupt politicians to maintain the status quo because it benefits them. It's something that Farage would like, and people like Farage would like to copy and paste. Rupert Lowe was asked about it, and he said, yeah, we should have a health insurance style system in the UK as well. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I want to cover one final story before we go. This is the end. Let me turn up the audio here on this because it's very low for some reason.
I mean, AGI feels pretty close at this point. Okay. Like, if you had asked me,
I can't boost the audio anymore, guys. Apologies, but this is okay. Let me give you a bit of context so you can have an understanding. Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. OpenAI is, of course, the tool that many of you use called ChatGPT to answer questions and stuff like that. Now, what we're expecting to see, and I hope I'm not going to bore you with this, but what we're expecting to see over the next number of years is not just chatbots, but agents who can work, who are as good as people. And these agents are going to get to a stage where they are better than people at doing jobs. And we're going to get beyond that, where it's called artificial superintelligence, where not just agents who are able to do the jobs of people even better than them. It will be on a scale that would be comparable to us and ants. So not like Skynet, but imagine we are the ants and the artificial superintelligence is us. Now, is there a way for an ant to outsmart you? Probably not. But according to OpenAI, and it's not just OpenAI, but others, some people will say that this is just him looking for money, which could be true, but I think he's onto something here, that he's seeing things that we're not seeing, and others in the industry are also seeing these things, that we're getting close to a situation where we have an artificial superintelligence and we will not be in control of it. That's the problem. We'll have this supermassive intelligence. We'll have like a god in a box, and the box may not hold that god, and the god may exit the box and decide that, well, we are a problem. We are an inconvenience.
AGI, how far then? I mean, AGI feels pretty close at this point. Okay. Like, if you had asked me, I think if you had asked most people 6 years ago, what would you think if we had systems that could do new research on their own? What would you think if we had systems that could make an entire complex computer program on their own, that could do pretty sophisticated knowledge work in all these different fields? You know, you could have one system that could act as an AI doctor, lawyer, computer scientist. We would say, okay, that sounds pretty general and pretty intelligent. We get used to whatever we have, but just watching how much the technology we already have is accelerating us internally, I would say it's pretty close. Given what I now expect to be a faster takeoff, I think superintelligence is not that far off.
AGI, how far?
Okay. This is concerning, once again, because we don't know. Garbage in, garbage out. I think it's not so much. So what we see is we see a jagged frontier. So we see AI do things much better than us and then fall on stupid stuff. And the problem with that is that it's continually getting better, but it's also still falling over silly things like, you know, how many letters are in strawberry or something like that. So it's failing on things that humans would never fail on. But those failures are getting fewer and fewer. And the advancement is getting faster and faster. If you look at how many new models have come out over the last number of months, the number is dramatically increasing, and the ability of those models is increasing as well. And we're going to get to a stage where a lot of jobs are being done by the AI. So what we're seeing at the moment is people who have jobs are getting a boost in their productivity as a result of AI. So they're able to outsource a lot of their work to AI. And the people who will be able to hold on to their jobs are the ones who know how to work the AI, to make it work for them. So when we talk about people losing their jobs, I think it's a bit overblown in the sense that many people will hold on if they're able to train on the AI and if they're able to use the AI to their advantage. If they're able to sell, look, I'm able to use this AI, you shouldn't get rid of me. I think what we're also going to see is businesses, unfortunately, many businesses are going to start pumping money into AI, not because they think that they need to, but they're afraid that they're going to be left behind. And this is going to create a sort of vicious cycle where businesses start freezing employment. They're not going to start hiring more people because they're going to invest more in the AI because they don't want to be left behind. And this will create a cycle where, the other company is investing in AI, then I better do the same. And then you're going to end up in a situation where you have companies not hiring people and then not creating opportunities and hoping that the AI will do the work. And in some cases it will, in other cases it will not. And the companies who are able to use the AI to their advantage will succeed and the others will fall. And this will create unemployment, of course. So it's not just a case of the AI is doing the job and then we're not hiring people. It's the people who are already working in the companies. They will be expected to use the AI tools. And some of them are doing that. And they're improving their productivity. If they're improving productivity, then the businesses don't need to hire more people. So it's creating a sort of vicious cycle there. Dave McGinnis, thank you so much for that super chat. Universal healthcare is a measure of our humanity and a measure of our compassion. Well said. Compassion, I think you wrote. I think I misread it. My neighbor's problem is my problem. Why? Because he is my neighbor. Well said. 100% agreement. We want to live in a society. We want to look out for each other. I'm healthy at the moment. I don't know how long that would last. But I'd like to live in a society that if something were to happen to me, the society would look after me. So I want to live in a society where I look after people who are not as lucky as I am or as fortunate or as healthy as I am. Because I don't know when that could happen to me. But because I care about other people. I care about us living in a society where we lift people out of poverty. I don't want anyone to live in poverty. I don't think we even need to... We hear from politicians, well, we need to have a certain amount of poverty. No, we could eliminate poverty tomorrow if we wanted to. If we truly wanted to. During the pandemic, it was necessary to take people off the streets. We were able to end homelessness during the pandemic because the government realized we had to do that. We couldn't leave people on the streets during a pandemic. And then as soon as the pandemic was over, the people went back on the streets. So it was a political decision, not an economic one, to end poverty. We could give people an amount of income to stay at home, a bit like a UBI. Then we ended it when the pandemic ended. The pandemic was a real opportunity to improve society. I was saying back in 2020, I was saying, here's a real opportunity. We could give people a UBI. We could improve people's lives. We could start providing homes for the homeless. We could end a lot of problems. But governments decided to go back to the way things were before. They were, oh, no, we can't be doing all these wonderful things. That costs money. Giving people money, they spend it. Giving money to the banks or propping up failing institutions, they don't spend it. They hoard it, or they use the money to buy assets, which makes the lives of ordinary people more difficult. There are political decisions that we take. Poverty is a political decision, not an economic one. Because we could end it tomorrow if we wanted to. And I find it really funny when you hear people like Elon Musk and others who are saying, oh, if we have this new technology, it will end poverty, it will end homelessness, it will end all of these social ills. You could do it yourself. It's not, your motivation, I don't believe your motivation is to empower AI in order to end these things. Your motivation is to empower AI because you want to be king of the world. You're the richest man in the world. Now you want to be king of the world. You want to control everything. You don't care about ending poverty, ending homelessness, because you could do it in the United States. You have the money to do it if you really cared about it. So take what these people have to say with a pinch of salt. So guys, I want to say thanks to everyone. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I have a problem with my link. Let me see if I can do this. Just bear with me a moment. Trying to get my video for the end up, but it's not working for some reason. Let me try and get that working. Apologies for these technical issues.
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher? What are you teaching?
Design and technology.
Design and technology, D&T, lovely stuff. Is that for like kids, adults?
Whoops. Okay, here we go. So apologies for that, guys. I had a bit of a problem with the connection. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. Before we go, thank you to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much for the super chats. Greatly appreciated. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. I'm not on the... you have a very loud mouse, Max. Apologies for that. I'm not on the post-stream chat anymore. We have a pre-stream chat. So anyone who's on Discord, remember to check out the pre-stream chat on Tuesdays and Fridays. So I hope you enjoyed this before we go, and I wish you all a wonderful weekend.
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher? What are you teaching?
Design and technology.
Design and technology, D&T, lovely stuff. Is that for like kids, adults, like
Kids, yeah,
kids, nice. And how are the kids? Are they all right?
Hit and miss.
Okay, sorry, so you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're not allowed to hit or miss. If you throw it at them, that is bad either way. Like, you can't get, I mean, you're also working in DT, you can't be chucking tools around, mate. Like, hit the fucking hit! Hit and miss. I mean, I get it. Are we talking a London school? Is it a London school?
Oh, no, it's Sussex.
Sussex, alright, okay. Well, I can, hit and miss, yeah. Yeah. And how, presumably, it's like older kids, like secondary kids? No?
Maximum 13.
Maximum 13? Never heard it described like that before. Sounds like you're like legally not allowed to hit maximum 13. Absolutely maximum 13. Minimum 12. Maximum 13.
Matt is great. Matt is great. So guys, have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care. And let's hope there isn't a war in Iran tonight.